welcome to yet another video in our series of videos on iOS app development. This particular series is focused on the development of the MAME Maker app. Before this video, there are three other videos that have been made where we start in part 1 to introduce the app, and then we go through various other steps until we've hit part 4 right now. Now, part 4 is essentially focused on configuring the segmented control based on the options the user selects. It's important to note that we opted to configure the segmented control within the code or within the assistant editor instead of on the interface builder, because the details of the configuration will come from the caption option, and we're going to see the caption option instance which we defined, and clearly the caption option instance that I just referenced is not accessible through the interface builder. So we're going to do a couple of things with that, but it's also important to understand that the segments, segmented controls have segments, right? So, and the segments within the segmented control each has an index, just like the elements of an array. An array, each element within an array has an index. So like your typical array, the indices actually start from 0, and that's like an addressing system that helps you know which of the segments within the segmented control that you're referring to. And it's important because that would help us in configuring the segmented control, and that understanding is very important. So as part of the tutorial, we're going to look through each of the choice arrays. As from the previous video, you can see we have a top choice array and you have a lower choice array. So we're going to loop through those choice arrays, and then that's what will help us configure the segmented control, as those loops happen. Now, this configuration would actually, most of what we're going to do here are going to happen within the view did load method, and usually it's the method that is called, as at runtime when the app begins to load components on the storyboard. So without much ado, we're gonna go straight to start, and I'm gonna share my screen right now. Let me see. This is the code where we stopped. So so as you can see, like I mentioned earlier, this is your top choices array, this is your bottom choice array, these are your captions, right? And we want to be able to link this to your segmented controls so that you can pull, as you click your segmented control, you can pull either of these options that is relevant. So a couple of steps. The first thing we're going to do is actually to remove all the segments from the top control. And then after we've done removing all the segments, remember the segments, a couple of segments make up the segment control. And when we drag the segmented control onto the storyboard, one of the things that happens is by default, right, 2 segments were added to the system. So the first thing we want to do is to remove all segments from the top control, and the way you do it is to actually use a line of code, use a particular method. So for the top segmented control, so we're looking at the top segmented control, the method or the property rather, to remove those segments. So it's almost, think of it like clearing your system as starting from 0, is to use segmented, remove all segmented elements. So this particular method essentially removes the 2 default segments that I mentioned that were loaded when the segmented control was first dragged to the storyboard. So the next thing we want to do right now is to now add a segment, our own segment. And we're adding this segment because we want it to have all the parameters that we can um, manipulate and add addresses to. So, and you do that by, let's still go, I'll show you the method, top segmented control dot. So the method you're going to use is insert segmented control. So, but I will go here, the one that has a certain properties. So notice that the insert segment, right, that you just see here, you see that's the insert segment. That's the method with which you can insert a segment, right, has a couple of properties and or rather a couple of parameters. The parameters are three of them: the string, and then you have the index here. That's where you enter your index, and this is where you enter your boolean, right? So essentially the string here represents the title of the segment, so we're going to have to give it a name, that segment a name. And then we're also going to give it an address, which is like the index, and then we're going to decide whether that segment is going to be animated. Now, at this particular point, we do not want to animate the segment because while the app is loading, right, the user doesn't even see anything on the screen, so there's no point animating anything at this point, you know. But for the title, what we are going to use is, the title is essentially the emoji property, and the index will represent the count of the top choice arrays. You know, the top choice arrays has a couple of elements within it. The number, when you count the number of those elements, that's what would come in here as your index. So we're going to go ahead and, but before I go ahead to modify all of that, one of the things I want to do is to create an opportunity for us to now create a for loop. So I'm going to copy this. Cut, Control X, and then I will create a for loop that can help us loop through that code that you're going to see. So we're going to say for choice in top choices, right? Open and close. So I'm going to paste command V. So I'm trying to loop through this. That's exactly what's happening here. So we're going to come here and we will name this choice.emoji. Choice.emoji. And then for the index, we're going to say top choices dot count. So as you loop through, because it's going to read each of the elements within that array. And then for this, the boolean, we don't want to animate anything, like I already mentioned to you why we don't want to animate it, because in view.load, the system is just loading, the user isn't seeing anything on the dashboard at this point. So we've gotten that set up. So the next thing we want to do is, remember we removed all the segments earlier with the remove all segments method. So the segmented control no longer has any selected, even though we've defined the segment here, right? We need to now go ahead and reinstate it. So we can do that right under here. So we'll say top segmented control, and we will use a method called select segment index, right? And we map it to 0. Now, so normally you reinstate the segment using the select segment index property, which is what we lifted here. So with what we have done now, as you're looking at this, one of the things that you'll notice is that the top segmented control now matches with the top choice array. We've been able to make a connection between them. So we'll also do the same thing for the bottom, which is, we've done that for the top. The same thing we've done for the top, we want to now also do for the bottom. So I'm gonna have to just copy and paste and then modify. I think that would be the best way to go. So this, let me copy and paste, copy all of this, and then modify it. Command copy. Let me see. Command V, top choices. So here I will change it to bottom. Bottom choices, and then we will top segmented control. We would also make this bottom segmented control. Yep, I think we got everything here, I think, for choice. Yeah, so I think we got everything. So at this point, we want to build and run the app, and let's see what we got here. Let's build and run the app. Okay, load. Awesome. So you can see at this point, right, you can see that the segmented control has been set up with the various emoji labels matching the our choice. So all of that has been done. So the next thing we want to do at this point is to go ahead and create a method that can help us set the correct captions, based on the selection from each of the segmented controls. So we will do that by doing a couple of things. The first thing is to add an update captions, right? Because what we want to do now is literally create a method that will help us set up the correct captions, because we want to be able to, whenever you click on the segmented control, you want to be able to map it up to the right caption options. So that's what we do in the next section. So, and to do that, we create a new method, right? And that new method we will call updated captions, right? So, and we're going to do that. It will be a separate outside view did load. This will be a completely completely new method of its own self. So we're gonna say func update captions, open and close bracket. So, and then we'll say let top index equals top segmented control dot selected segmented index so we will say top caption label dot text equals top choice top index dot caption. So that's what we have here. Top segmented seeing some errors here. Segmented control, I think it should take care of that. Okay, and then when we're done with the top, we now go to the bottomlet. Bottom, I probably just copy and paste instead of typing everything. Okay, let me just copy and paste this and then modify it. Sorry about that. Copy and paste. Let me see, is there anything off here? Select segmented index, top segmented value of UI, top segmented control dot top segmented index, select selected segment. This is segment, not segmented. Segment index, then top cap. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this, command copy, and then I'm going to paste it. So I've done for the top, now I want to do for the bottom. So I'm going to change this to bottom index. Bottom index, what else needs changing? We have the bottom, this is bottom segment control, and then bottom caption, bottom choices. I think that's this is pretty correct. So notice there are a couple of things to look at here. Now the selected segment index, that's a method, and what the method actually does is that the index of the selected segment is actually available through this property. So what the particular, that's how you access the index of the segment that you are choosing, right? That's the property that helps you access it. And then once the index has been pulled, it can then be used to obtain the correct caption address from either the top choice or so. This helps you get the index, and then once you get it, you can now use that index to now pull the correct caption option. And when I'm talking about caption option, I'm talking about this. This is the caption options. There are 3 choices for the top and 3 choices for the bottom. So this helps you access the particular index of the segment, and then it would go pull up the particular caption, caption option that you are interested in. So that would be that. And then the next thing we want to do is to call this particular, so I'm going to take it, we're going to call this in 2 locations. Control, copy, control. Sorry, let me copy it. We're going to call update captions in 2 locations, and I'll tell us why we are calling them in those locations. So one of the locations you're going to call them is going to be in view.load. So I would kind of put that here. Command V, that would be one of the places. And then the next place we are going to call, that will be here. Notice that IB action, right, is where, let me go back to main editor assistant. So IB action, you know, where's my IB action? Yeah, this is IB action, right? You can see the segmented control, both of them are connected there. So I want to be able to make a call so that to make a call, and that's why I want to be, this is connected to two of those segments. So I want to put this method here so that once this loads, it can make a call to this so that you can pick up the index using this property. And then once I have that index, it can map directly back to the caption, and then it helps me load up that action. So that's essentially what's going on here. So I'm going to try to run the code again and see what we get. So the build has succeeded. So yep. So that would be it for this video. We're going to continue later to get things sorted and then polish the app, the rest of in the rest of the upcoming video. So have a very good day. If you have any questions, please drop those questions in the comment section. Appreciate you listening. Take care.